I love you forever. I love you forever. I love you forever, Lord.
Welcome to our first episode of Pure Couples. And today we're going to be speaking about becoming one. How do you come together with someone else to make a family? One, being one in purpose and will and all that you do.
So I think a lot of people are under the misconception that, once you get married, it's going to be so romantic. You're going to go on family vacations all the time, go on dates all the time. And a lot of people don't realize how even the smallest things can be very hard to become one and unified on. And, it goes from the more minute things, more minute details to more serious issues. So I remember our first year, I just hated the way he would leave his socks on the floor when he would come home and right by the front door, and I would always have to remind him to move his stuff and different things like that, how you keep the house, who cleans what, and even how your spouse might clean or cook. You might not be happy with it 100%, and you might find yourself nitpicking, like, honey, do you think you could do it like this instead? Or do you think you could just, maybe try to do that instead of what you're doing right now? And before you know it, you're just constantly nagging the person or getting on their nerves. And, it could cause a lot of fight sometimes. So it's very important to know how to choose your battles and when to choose your battles.
Another thing that can come up in your marriage and becoming one, in the process of becoming one, is social interactions. There are times where two persons come together. One person may be more private than the other, while the other person is a whole lot more outgoing and fun-loving and always want people to be around. And that can really cause some issues if you guys don't figure out how to come together and to actually make it work to where both parties are still keeping their personalities, but at the same time, they're self-sacrificing for one another so that they can make each other comfortable. For example, I remember when we first started dating, they would have social gatherings at her home, or when all of her family, my wife's family, would come together. Everyone's making noise, everybody, hey, it's just crazy. And for me, when I get into a new environment with new people, I automatically go into my introverted state. And that's where I just don't say anything to anyone. I stay in my own corner, probably texting on my phone, talking to someone else. And my wife, she was like, you don't like my family? Like, what's your problem? Every time they come around, you act like this, so on and so forth. And at that time, I didn't really understand why I was doing that, because I was coming off as if I didn't like them. However, as we began to speak, as we began to talk about it, I realized that, and we both realized that, hey, this is how I am. When I get into a new environment, when I get around new people, I just back off. I'm more of an observer. I'm looking around to see what people are doing, and I'm just checking people out. But after a while, when I get comfortable, everything is good and I'm more of myself. So that's just one thing that we had to just figure out with one another. And I'm pretty sure many other couples out there, you guys have the same issues as well. But don't think that the person is mean or they just don't care, but dig deeper, because it's more of personality types than anything else.
And I think it's really important to also give the person time to get comfortable, or give them the opportunity to just be themselves, because you don't want them to, turn into a person that puts on a facade just for you every time you all are going out, or, just because you're in front of people. You want to really respect their individuality and make sure that it remains intact, but at the same time, compromising, giving and taking, so that both of you can be happy. So I just had to, accept the fact that until he gets comfortable with my family, yeah, he's going to come across as a little standoffish. And I explained it to them, and they had to understand. Now, probably one of the biggest issues that you're going to have to face together is how you handle problems, how you handle conflict. This is such a big one because it's like all the negative things of your personality come out when you deal with conflict in your relationship. And so I've noticed that there are kind of two ways most people handle problems. Some people are confrontational. You know, they want to yell at you, they want to scream at you, just get it all out, tell you what it is, like it is, and, you know, just in their most impassioned speech. And other people, they want to just sulk silently. They just want to go to a room by themselves. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to hear you. They just want to, you know, think it over in their head and not be bothered. So, you know, that can bring about some very serious issues if you're trying to solve a problem, obviously.
You know, what comes to mind when you mentioned that is when we first started dating and how we would get into arguments and my wife would want to just storm out, leave, huff and puff, stomp her feet and just walk out and not pick up my calls and don't want to talk to me or threaten to break up with me. And I told her, you know, I said, hey, if we are to make this work, every time we have a disagreement, every time I do something that rubs you wrong and vice versa, the first thing you do can't be just get upset, just leave, don't talk to me, give the silent treatment, and then we come back together like everything's all good. No, you have to be able to talk things through. And it may not necessarily be talking it through at that point, but I guess because, you know, we have different temperaments. Everyone is different. So it's best for you and your partner to come up with a way on how you're going to handle conflict. If it's okay, if you're upset, you want to, you know, take some time to cool off, you walk away, you come back when everything is clear, you talk about it, fine, do that. If you're a couple that you feel as if, hey, you can talk about it in the heat of the moment, you do that. However, it can't just be something that is just blown off and then you just come back together and you never talk about it and everything's all good. Why? Because all you're doing is sweeping dirt under the carpet and that dirt will pile up high. And eventually, something's going to happen.
And I think, too, it's important to have, like, rules that you play by where every argument is not going to be so bitter. Like, for example, I have a very hot temper sometimes, and I'll say things, and sometimes I would call him names, and then I feel so bad about it afterwards. And I had to realize, like, okay, this is one of the things that I need to establish is when we're upset, you know, no name calling, no put downs, or another thing could be, you know, some people just want to slam things or just, you know, I don't know how people act. Some people act very scary when they're angry. So you and your partner need to establish boundaries that you guys are not going to cross, even if you're angry, because that shows that you really respect the relationship, you care about the person, and even though in that moment you're upset, but you don't see them as your enemy, you know, you're still focusing on the problem being the enemy instead of attacking the person.
And that concludes our first webisode of Pure Couples, where we discover God's plan for families and relationships.
And remember, you can't break the cycle of dysfunction that's plaguing our families today.